Hello, good evening, friends. Once more, I'm reading another page where A Tale of Two Cities. I'm reading summary, and here little bit different summaries. Summary is same actually, but the way they describe, that's a different description of the same summary. So I'm reading for you. Uh, just listen. That's a how they are telling the summary, super summary, right? So according to this text, in 1775 a banker named Jervis Lorry travels to Dover, where he meets a young girl, half French woman named Lucy Manet. So Lorry is the friend of Dr. Alexander Manet's friend, and that when novel opens, then it was 1775, and he's a banker. He works in Telson Bank, and he when novel opens, then we come to know that Jervis Lorry is traveling to Dover to meet a young girl, Lucy Manet, and now together the pair travel to Paris. Then they travel to Paris to recover his father, Alexander Manet. Now, once a successful doctor, Manet was, for unknown reason, imprisoned 18 years ago in the infamous Bastille prison. So, reason is that Lucy Manet, that's a young girl, Lucy Manet, and Jarvis Lorry, uncle, and Dr. Alexander's friends, Jarvis Lorry, they are traveling to Paris to meet Mr. Alexander Manet, and he is uh, captivated and imprisoned for 18 years in the Bastille prison, which is very infamous. Right now, he has now been released and is in the care of former servant named Ernest Defarge. So now he has been released, and he's being taken care by Ernest Defarge, who had been the former servant of Mr. Alexander Manet, who now runs a wine shop in the impoverished Saint Antoine district of Paris. So he is running a wine shop, and in the Paris. Now Dr. Manet's long imprisonment has left him in a bad psychological state, because without reason he is imprisoned for 18 years is too long, and then that's why he had psychological problem, and he is largely unaware of his surroundings and constantly busies himself making shoes. So here he is taught to make shoes as a prisoner, so that now he has psychological problem, and he is not aware about surroundings, and he is continuously busy in making shoes. Now his daughter's arrival, but then as Mr. Jarvis Lorry and Miss Lucy reach to Paris, then that's a daughter's arrival seems to spark some signs of recognition in him. So in the beginning, he is not able to recognize his own daughter, because it's 18 years, too much long time, and then but then he recognizes, as he remembers his wife's hair was brown, and then the same color of Lucy, and this way he recognizes. Now, so that's however the group departs to for England, and then Mr. Jarvis Lorry, Lucy Manet, and Alexander Manet, they come back to England. Now, 5 years are everything is normal, and Alexander Manet recovers, and life is normal. Now, after 5 years, Lucy and Manet, now largely recovered, are the witnesses in a treason case in London. So now there is someone, and then Mr. Alexander Manet and Lucy Manet had to go to London for trial, court trial. Now the defendant is a young Frenchman named Charles Darnay. And who is culprit, who is criminal? That's Charles Darnay. He's accused actually for whom they initially met on the crossing from Calais. So they met earlier, but it initially seems likely that Darnay will be convicted of being a French spy. And what's the allegation imposed to Darnay? That he is being a French spy. But so he leaks French secrets to England government. But at last moment, Darnay's legal team asks whether Darnay might have been misidentified by a witness. So, because at last one statement comes that he have been misidentified by a witness, so it may be problem that he has been misidentified. So to prove the plausibility of this, one of the lawyers, man named Sidney Carton, stands up, revealing himself to look very much like Darnay. So Sidney Carton appears here, and Sidney Carton says that I am just like I resemble with Charles Darnay, and that's why it is quite possible that Charles Darnay is misidentified, maybe is misidentified, and it is proved at last, and Charles Darnay is saved. Now, over the next several months, Darnay and Carton pay several visits to Mannets at their London home. Both men fall in love with Lucy, but where Darnay is hardworking, courteous, and noble, Carton is a cynical and depressed alcoholic. So that is why Darnay and Lucy eventually become engaged, while Carton, in confessing his love for Lucy, swears that he would give his life to keep her, right? And those she loves safe, and those she loves safe. So he promises Lucy, who Sidney Carton promises Lucy that he will always save Lucy's life, and he can give his life, sacrifice his life. Well, meanwhile, change is underway in France. Here, in France, there is chaos, right? Chaos, right? And then shortly after his trial, Darnay had visited his uncle, who is revealed to be corrupt and cruel nobleman, the Marquis Saint Evemond. So, who is this man? That's the Darnay's uncle. So, he visited to uncle, and then on the night of Darnay's visit, however, Marquis was killed by father of a peasant boy. So, who is this peasant boy? Whom he had run over with his carriage earlier this way, and this peasant boy is killed by Evemond's carriage, right? And that's why peasant's father kills Marquis. Okay. Now the man Gaspard is arrested and executed. So that this man is arrested and executed, but the events surrounding the murder generate further interest in a revolutionary society headed by Defarge and his wife, because wife Therese, right? Why? Because that's a very like unrest amongst peasants and people, and then this is provokes the situation. This incident where through his carriage, whose carriage? Evemond, Marquis Evemond carriage, the boy is killed. He comes under the wheel and he is killed, and that is why it provokes situation, and then people are very much against of aristocrats, and that's a monarchy. Now Darnay and Lucy marry. Finally, here Darnay and Lucy get married with Dr. Mannet's permission. Although Manet suffers a brief relapse after learning Darnay's true name, that's Darnay. It's not Darnay, but it's a Avermont. So he relapse. He becomes abnormal again, but for 9 days only, and he recovers because Lucy convinces her father that he is not culprit and he is not like that family members, and that's why he disguises himself, and he is living in London, and there are many reasons, several reasons, and then Dr. Alexander Manet convinced, and this way he recovers after 9 days. Now, several years pass in domestic bliss, and Darnay and Lucy have a daughter, and then Darnay and Lucy have a daughter named Lucy, right? Her daughter's name also Lucy. By the time the child is 6, event have come to a head in France. When she becomes 6, and then 6 years was smooth, but then what happened? Then there is again chaos in France, and led by the Defarges, the French peasantry storm the Bastille and execute its guards. And who is leading this revolutionaries group, or what we can say, that that's a against, the people were against, and then this group, this name is Defarge. So then more violence quickly follows with the killing of government official and arson of Marquis' former mansion, and then people started killing all elite families members and every like aristocratic members. Now again 3 years after, French Revolution begins. In this novel, we see that after 3 years, French Revolution begins. Darnay receives a as French Revolution begins, Darnay receives a letter from a man named Gabel, whom he had entrusted with the disposal of Avermont property after Darnay himself renounced it. So he has trust on Gabel, and Gabel is taking care of property and all, Avermont property. Gabel is now accused of aiding an immigrant, an aristocrat who has fled France, and Gabel is now accused of aiding an immigrant, an aristocrat who has fled France. So, who is the aristocrat? Avermont family, one of the members of aristocrat. He has fled France, and then asked Darnay to come to Paris and speak for him. So Gabel writes a letter to Darnay, and then he explains all the reasons that I am imprisoned and I am victimized by Defarge family, and they have put me into the jail. So you just have to come to take care of me. Now Darnay, trusting in his record of sympathy with the French peasantry, agrees. So Darnay agrees, and then when he arrives in Paris, however, he is arrested and placed in La Force prison. So he comes to save his loyal servant Gabel, but he is also prisoned because he is kept in the prison. Then Lucy and Dr. Manet come to know, so they quickly follow Darnay to France. Manet's imprisonment under the French monarchy had made him a national celebrity there. Because he was innocent, everyone knows. But then Manet was arrested in during French monarchy. So then, because of innocency, and he's a simple man and helpful and doctor, so that is why in prison also he becomes hero, celebrity of the national celebrity of France, right? He hopes to use this public sympathy to secure Darnay's release. So first time he uses uh, his power, and then he writes a letter to secure Darnay's recommendation to secure Darnay, and then even as France descends deeper into violence, it appears that Manet may be successful. However, in France, there is people are very much agitated, but then Dr. Manet is saved. Dr. Manet's recommendation works, and Darnay successfully relieved from the jail. But a little over a year after his initial arrest, Darnay appears in court, and Manet's testimony on his behalf sources his acquittal. Now, a little over a year after his initial arrest, Darnay appears in court, and Manet's testimony on his behalf secures his acquittal, and finally he comes out of jail. Later that night, but same night, however, Darnay is rearrested at his trial the next day. A statement written by Manet during his imprisonment is read aloud. So once upon a time, Dr. Manet written one letter in which he writes about why I am imprisoned, why I am victimized, because I am the witness, and I have seen that a little girl, is sexually harassed by Evermont brothers, and all these incident is written in that letter. So when this letter is read in the court, and that is why same day Darnay against, because he is the only survival of Evermont family, so he has to face such situation, and though he is innocent, but he is rearrested. Now I describe how Manet was imprisoned by Darnay's uncle and father because he had treated and consequently knew about a young peasant woman raped by one of the Evermont brothers, and a boy, her brother, who was fatally injured trying to defend her, right? And that is why that's a young girl was sexually molested, and her brother who is fatally injured by Evermont brothers. This is written in that letter. Now, these two victims of Evermont were Madame Defarge's older siblings. So, both the victims, that girl, young girl, peasant girl, and brother, her brother, they were older sibling of Defarge family, and their deaths are what have made her so bitter and vengeful, and that's why they are ready to take revenge. Now, Darnay is sentenced to death, and even Manet proves powerless to save him. Now Darnay is sentenced to death, and that's a capital punishment is decided for Darnay because he is only survivor. And then Manet again tries to save him, but this time Alexander Manet's application is not worked out, and then he could not save, and his attempts to speak to those in power only cause him to relapse into his traumatized state, but then he is not listen, right? And then in the meantime, however, Carton has arrived. What happened? I am repeating. As a Manet proves powerless to save him, his attempts to speak to those in power only cause him to relapse into his traumatized stage, right? So that they said that they are not ready to make Charles Darnay free. In the meantime, however, Sidney Carton arrived in Paris and devised a plan. And one plan he devises. Carton instructs Laurie in Paris attending to his bank's business to ensure that Lucy, her father, and her child Lucy leave France the day of execution. Madame Defarge will seek revenge on the rest of Darnay's family next. He also entrusts his own travel papers to Laurie. So he calls Charles Sidney. He's a lawyer. So he calls Jarvis Laurie, and he says that be ready, everything should be ready, And then why? Because as Charles Darnay definitely he is going to be killed, then Madame Defarge is going to uh, kill Lucy and daughter Lucy and Alexander Manet, because now they are the relative of Evermond family. Now Carton successfully blackmails one of the Darnay's jailer, whom he knows to be an English spy. So he blackmails one jailer into allowing him to see Darnay, and he takes permission to wants to meet Darnay. And once inside the cell, he drugs Darnay and takes his place, while Darnay himself, in the guise of Carton, leaves Paris with his family and Laurie. And here, Darnay is dragged by one spy, and then he puts into the carriage, and Laurie along with Lucy, daughter Lucy, and all, they just fled away to London. Now belated Madame Defarge arrives at the Manet's former Paris residence, and then she goes to find out former Paris residents, hoping to find and arrest Lucy, only to be now only to be killed in the struggle with Miss Pross. So that he has to meet Miss Pross as she goes to Manet's residence, hoping to find Lucy and daughter Lucy. So here she has to Mrs. Defarge has to meet Miss Pross. She is the lawyer maid servant of Lucy, and Lucy she is the Lucy devoted maid. Meanwhile, Carton is taken to uh, guillotine in Darnay's place, and after comforting a young seamstress condemned alongside him, Carton mounts the scaffold, finally at peace with himself and his life. And then he puts his head and he's killed by them, and the story ends. So finally, who sacrifices his life? Sydney Carton. And here story ends.